there. But when we start legislating to get rid of them, how do they feel? Just I saw there in Scotland, in the UK, the bill now proposes certain safeguards. Two doctors must agree that the person is capable and fits legal criteria. A 14-day period to allow the change of mind, but then a healthcare professional must assist the patient. So there you go. The doctors. The last time I think it was defeated, a lot of doctors said, "I'm not doing this." So they're looking to maybe offing the actual administering of these the poison to just some healthcare professional who wants maybe a better paycheck, maybe, it's so sad. And again,
it's terrifying though what you're saying about safeguards, 2 doctors' signatures. Where have we heard that before?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I should just step in here for a second and say that one of the things that is really frightening pro-life campaigners, I think, this is something SPC's really talked about, is that when abortion was legalised, we were told exactly the same thing. Oh, there'll be safeguards, 2 doctors' signatures, cooling off period, only certain circumstances. No one will have to. There's a conscientious objection. No one will have to take part. And of course, now we have pills and post, and midwives.
Yeah.
Losing their livelihoods because they won't kill the babies they're delivering. So this is surely exactly what's going to happen here.
Yeah. And that's it. Just look what happened over in Canada as well. Like it's ridiculous. I'm just looking here as well. So the 2019, so there were 7,000 deaths, more than 500 were due to dementia, psychiatric conditions. Here's okay. A person can now be considered eligible in Canada for dying due to chronic illness, disability, mental illness, or anything that would hinder their full participation in society.
Yeah, I mean, I could request euthanasia on those grounds.
Yeah,
suffering from a chronic illness. I could do that now. Now, listen, we're going to have to go to an ad break now, and I gather there's a big news story about to break. But please do stay tuned because. We've got lots more to talk about. This is a really important subject. Thank you so much for all the comments coming into the chat room. You're listening to The Midday Show, and my guest today is Emmett Dooley from SPUC Scotland. Our call-in telephone number is 844-527-8723. That's 844-527-8723. And the Crusader Stadium chat room is open for your commentary as well at crusadechannel.com/chat. Do talk to me. Do join the conversation. The Midday Show will continue in a few moments here on the Crusade Radio Network. Live talk radio, the way it should be.
Or 6 today at shop.mikechurch.com. Silver and gold. In these turbulent times, buying silver and gold is such a no-brainer that even snowmen know they should do it. Now, all precious metal dealers claim to be the best, but only one can claim they are endorsed by the King Dude, and that's Miles Franklin. My friend Andy Schegman's a regular guest on my show and a regular genius when it comes to silver and gold, and I trust him with my silver and gold purchases, and so should you. So email Miles Franklin today for your exclusive Mike Church Show discount price list. info@milesfranklin.com. Did you know that MAGA caps are now going for $50? Well, listen up. I know where you can get a Make American Talk Radio Great Again cap for free. Sign up for a 1-year Founders Pass membership, and the cap is yours for free. Sign up today at crusadechannel.com/offer.
The best 1-2 punch in all of talk radio. KV Turley's Believe It or Else and the Midday Show with Fiorella De Maria. Taking your chat room questions and shouting out your comments. 10 noon Central on the Crusade Radio Network. Live talk radio the way it should be.
Okay, hey, folks, it's Mike Church. We are live here. They said, I didn't say. They said that they were coming back with a verdict at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It didn't say they were going to meet in chambers. They didn't say that there was going to be an attorney-client privilege meeting or anything of the sort. They said, we'll be back at 12:30. Actually, the judge said, I'm ready to do the sentencing right now if you are. And the defense counsel or the state said, well, give us a half an hour. So we came back here live anticipating that we would get the Jose Ibarra sentencing, and we would find out exactly what they intended to do with him. And I believe that did they take the death penalty off the table? But he was.
According to CNN, court is back in session. So whenever Fox pulls it up, we'll find out.
Okay. He was found guilty on all 10 counts. So first degree murder, it was murder 1. Here we go. They're back live here now. For the man, the monster you see there on. It was first degree murder. It was first degree rape. It was kidnapping. Back into we're live in the courtroom now.
He ripped away every beautiful memory we will ever be able to make with her again. This horrific individual robbed us all of our hopes and dreams for Laken. Your Honor, I'm asking you to please give Jose Ibarra the same thing he gave us when he made the choice to take the Laken.
These are Laken Riley's family's impact statement. This is Laken Riley's mother.
For her life. There's no end to the pain and suffering that he inflicted on our family and our friends. I'm asking you to please give this monster life without any chance of parole so that he never gets the chance to hurt anyone else ever again.
This is John Phillips, Your Honor.
I'd like to thank Your Honor for the opportunity to speak today. I truly appreciate it. I heard in the opening statements from the defense that the loss of a life that was apparently full of promise is tragic. I'm here today to let Your Honor and the entire world know that Laken's life was not apparently full of promise, but instead was abundantly and exceptionally full of promise, and was a shining beacon in the life of everyone that knew her, that ever came in contact with her. I'm so proud of Laken and the beautiful person she was. And while I could stand here and try to tell the world the things that made her such a wonderful person, as well as the many things we have all been robbed and deprived of, I think one of her last journal entries dated 12/17/23 says it best. So here we go. To my future husband. As silly as I feel writing this, my old small group leader once recommended it, so here I am. To my future husband, I want you to know that I'm thinking about you. I'm working every day to become the best wife I can be, by working through my current relationships to best prepare me for ours and our kids one day. I'm focusing on God and what He defines as a faithful Christian life, and so that I can best embody those characteristics. I pray that you know that it is with my full faith and trust in God that I know this relationship has been handcrafted by Him. I pray that we continue to glorify the Lord, prioritize Him in every aspect of our lives, and raise our family, our future family, to be God-fearing Christians.
This is the voice of Laken Riley's stepfather.
I pray God is the center of our relationship, as it is a gift from Him. I thank Him for you before I even know you, and can't wait to love you in the best way I know how for the rest of our lives. I pray you know and feel the importance of my love and hopes for our relationship. No matter what challenges we face, I pray that our trust in God and love for one another overrules the obstacle. May our relationship last forever. Your future wife, Laken. That, Your Honor, was our beautiful Laken. That, Your Honor, is just a glimpse of what was tragically and brutally taken from her and us that day. The best daughter, sister, granddaughter, friend, and overall person that you could ever hope to meet. While it's true that none of our lives will ever be the same, we refuse to let this person rob Laken of the hope she gave to her family, loved ones, friends, and the world as a whole. We will proudly carry this hope on in her name in the days ahead and for the rest of our lives, because together we can all keep hope alive. So today, I plead with this court to protect the world from this truly evil person by sentencing him to prison for life without the possibility of parole for any reason, so that he can never have the opportunity to do this to anyone else ever again. Thank you, Your Honor.
John Phillips, the stepdad of Laken Riley, and her mother just spoke, Allison Phillips, asking the judge to show Jose Ibarra her vicious
Okay,
killer.
so we're actually waiting for the judge now to pass the sentence. Magdalene Rose joins me on the StreamYard hotline here. Magdalene, a tragic and emotional moment for everyone involved here. But I think this puts some closure, at least, to the saga for this family, and certainly this kind of serves as a touchstone for all of those people that have immigrated illegally into the United States and have committed all these acts of violence, that you're not going to get away with it. And families, actually, their lives have actually been destroyed by this. This isn't a game. We're not playing around here. People have actually lost a loved one here, all under the guise of the Dreamers and all the other garbage for what we hear from the illegal immigrant crowd. I wonder where they are today. What we hear from
people are asking
I
is,
wonder
where
where
are
they
all
are
of those
today.
people who should be paying attention to like the OJ case and stuff. They're not covering this case nearly as much. Conservative media is leading the charge on the coverage of that, and I think that's important because we're not willing to let it go, even though the mainstream media is.
And CNN apparently is at least monitoring this, and at least CNN is covering it. I wouldn't want my guilty fingerprints all over this. If I was Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Alejandro Mayorkas or any of the people that are responsible for this, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near this because you're directly responsible. This guy was flown. You know, for our friends that are listening out there anywhere in the world, you need to know that the government of the United States flew at our expense, knowing that this man was a violent offender from Venezuela, flew him at his request because he was wanted by the police in New York State. They flew him, basically made him a flight risk, right? Made him put him on the lam, basically, and helped him evade the police in New York. Flew him on what I call treason air, and they flew him to Athens, Georgia. That's how he and his brother got from New York to Georgia at taxpayer expense. You know, the idea here that this is some happenstance and, it was just wrong place, wrong time. He stalked her, Magdalene. If you watch this trial, he stalked her. He knew exactly what he was doing. That may not have been exactly her, but he was stalking all the young girls that were running on the trail that day.
He was, and that's why he was also charged with a peeping Tom offense. He was somebody who was looking for a mark, and that's what's so frustrating about this. This was not a crime of passion. This was not somebody who was caught up in something. He stalked her. He went for it. He probably planned it. There is a real effort by him to destroy life. And that happened because of Democrat border policies. And Democrats can say, well, it's the exception, it's not the rule. So what? It's still your fault. And I think that's something the Trump campaign really hammered this time around. We had the Angel parents last time and in 2016 as well. I've interviewed some of them, and their stories were so compelling. And so last time around the election process, they were kind of pushed to the side. This time they were out front, and I will tell you, suburban women paid attention to them.
I want to bring Emmett Dooley in on this because I see Emmett is commenting that he's been following this case all the way from Scotland. He's Fiorella's guest today. Emmett, I saw you nodding your head and then shaking your head and I guess in sorrow at what you were hearing. What say you about all this? You say you've been following the case.
Yes, because I'm from Ireland originally, and there is a serious influx of questionable young men with no checks at the Irish border, and there has been a number of similar attacks and crimes in Ireland, and it just breaks my heart. One happened to my sister's friend, they were a work colleague. She was going for a jog, and a man who's there illegally just grabbed her and killed her. You know, it's tragic. But Laken Riley, again, I think we all heard her story. It was very well put out there by the Trump campaign and by the Republicans. It was just so tragic, and what a beautiful young girl. But you know, this shouldn't happen. You know, this shouldn't be that we have to be so afraid of in our societies.
Yeah, Riley, a good Irish name too. Let's go back. Let's go back to the courtroom. I believe the impact statements are continuing. Thank you, Emmett.
Your Honor, I stand here today as a grieving father whose heart was shattered in ways I never thought possible. My daughter, Laken Riley, was not just our child. She was the light of my life, the person who brought joy to every room she entered. And now that light has been extinguished forever, taken from us in the most senseless and violent way imaginable. The pain I feel is unexplainable. Every day I am reminded that my daughter is gone. I will never hear her laugh again, never see her smile, never hold her hand or feel her hug. She was taken from us, from her family, from her friends, from her future. Our world has been torn apart, and no matter what happens here today, nothing will ever bring her back. I am haunted by the thought of the fear she must have felt in those final moments, and it breaks my heart knowing that she suffered. I have to live with the fact that I could not protect her when she needed me the most. The pain of not being there, of not being able to stop what happened to her, is something I will never escape. My daughter had so many dreams, so many hopes for the future. She had worked so hard to become a nurse, to work with children and spread the love of God. She was a loving, kind, and intelligent young woman. She had so much to offer the world, and her life was taken from her far too soon. I will never get to see her achieve those dreams. The void that has been left is unmeasurable. The impact of her loss on our family is immeasurable. As a father, I am forever burdened with the pain of losing my child. I will spend the rest of my life trying to navigate this grief, trying to make sense of the world that took my daughter from our family. But I will never forget her. I will keep her memory alive, and I hope justice is served for her, not only because I'm her father, but because she deserves it. I ask that you consider this life that was taken, the pain that has been caused, and the lasting effects of this tragedy on everyone who loved our amazing daughter, Laken Hope Riley. Thank you.
Lily Steiner, Sophia Magana, Connolly.
These are the impact statements of the family and friends of Laken Riley. And Jose Ibarra is actually sitting in the courtroom like 10 feet away from these people. An absolutely tragic event here unfolding on the Crusade Radio Network. Thanks for joining us.
Laken Riley was my roommate for 2 years, my devoted and loyal running partner for 2 years, and my best friend forever. I stand before you looking at you through eyes that have seen, ears that have heard, and a heart that has felt emotions no body, and especially no 22-year-old, should have to. On February 21st, my life was complete. I woke up on February 21st at 7:30 a.m., walked out of my bedroom door to streamers hung outside of my bedroom from the top of the door frame to the floor, balloons blown, decorations taped, and gifts presented precisely on my kitchen island. Laken did it. It was my 22nd birthday. She had a 5 a.m. nursing clinical, yet she woke up at 4:30 a.m. to make me feel loved and appreciated, because that is who Laken Riley was. I went to dinner that night with my roommates and my family, and ended the night with my roommates, and especially Laken, showering me with love. It is clear and evident that this defendant, Jose Ibarra, has never felt this type of love and appreciation. I've been impacted by this brutal, cowardice, and preventable tragedy in every way, shape, and form. I no longer have a best friend that I relay every thought or worry to. I no longer run every day. I lost my partner, and I lost the joy of what running was before Laken was taken from us. I cannot imagine running when I constantly am looking over my shoulder in public, wondering if I am next. I live with excruciating guilt every day that I was not accompanying Laken on this run, and that it was her and not me. And I hope and pray that it will never happen again to anyone. Along with this, the crime that this monster committed ruined one of the most special places in our friendship. Lake Herrick was Laken and I's safe space. We loved to go on running adventures throughout the park together. We had a code called dock time. Dock time consisted of either ending our runs or taking a calming walk to the dock at Lake Herrick. Here we would sit in silence, play music, or talk while sitting on the dock, simply enjoying each other's presence. All it took was a text saying, "I need dock time," and we were on the way to debrief whatever we needed to discuss. Now, when I think of this beautiful spot, I think of the terror and horror my sweet best friend had to endure at the hands of this monster. I think of all the things I have to do now to remember Laken. At times, I forget how she laughs or how she sounds, and I have to resort to looking through my camera roll of hundreds of videos I have. Videos where I talk to my future kids and introduce them to their Aunt Laken in college. To talk to my friend, I have to drive 20 minutes to her grave and sit and talk to her with no response, screaming at the sky. When I want to remember her, I have to go to my closet and pull out her clothes I was given and smell them to remember how she smelled. As I stand up here today, I am wearing one of Laken's shirts. This shirt has sat in my closet for months, not because I'm saving it for an occasion, but because I cannot afford to not remember these things like this about her. I sit in therapy week after week trying to heal February 22nd and life after. When I hear emergency vehicle sirens, I am triggered. I sat that day and watched dozens of emergency personnel drive by as I sat helpless. My roommates and I had to draw our own conclusions that the pinnacle of our house was no longer here when we watched a coroner drive by us after sitting at the fields for 2 hours with no answers. Our fears were confirmed when we received a university-wide email that alerted students, faculty, and staff that a female was deceased. I lost faith in humanity the day that my kind, selfless, beautiful, smart, loving, and perfect best friend left this earth. I will never understand why it had to happen in the first place, but more importantly, why out of all people it had to be her. The world lost a girl who would take the clothes off her back for her family, friends, and even strangers, who studied and devoted her life to Christ and nursing so she could save lives and make a difference in this world. Laken cannot be replaced. If you had the ability to bring her back out of all this, I would give up every earthly possession I have to see her infectious smile, hear her contagious laugh, and her infamous "love you, girl," and I would hug her neck, but you cannot. Laken made this world, and more specifically my world, better. My first years of college, when I did not know Laken, I went home all the time. My last years of college, you had to drag me home. That was because Laken was my person. So, Your Honor, I wish to proclaim the maximum sentence for the defendant, as I will never be the same, her loving, beautiful family will never be the same, and this world will never be the same. I hope this sentencing sets a precedent, so it stops with Laken and fails to happen to anyone again. Laken was a hero and a warrior. She died a hero and a warrior, and she is a hero and warrior to all of us. Laken was my source of light, joy, and unwavering happiness. So when her life was taken, so was the part of me that knew how to truly feel those things again. Thank you, Your Honor.
Lily Steiner,
Your Honor, my name is Lily Steiner, and as mentioned in my testimony, I was one of Laken's roommates, friends, and family. On the day of February 22nd, 2024, Laken Riley was taken by Jose Ibarra from her family, her roommates, her friends, her sorority sisters, her classmates, her future children, her future husband, and her future patients. This trial focused on the death of Laken, which has overshadowed the life that she lived, the life that was stolen from this community. Laken was the most driven student with the biggest heart of anyone I think I ever will meet. As roommates, we got to spend a whole lot of time together. We had our family dinners that were strictly chili. We watched Dancing with the Stars every Tuesday. We had almost daily Starbucks runs, which I hoped to do that morning when I checked her location around the time she took her final breaths. We'd often get to a point at least once a week where we'd get emotional, thinking about what life is going to be like once we graduated.
You're listening and watching the sentencing hearing of Jose Ibarra for the murder, kidnapping, rape, stalking, 10 counts in all he was found guilty of by the judge here in Athens, Georgia. These are family and friends and their impact statements. We had to preempt the midday show with Fiorella. Fiorella and Emmett, we're going to run out of time, and I don't want you guys to have to stay. So I appreciate you both. And thanks for, Emmett, thanks for being Fiorella's guest, Fiorella. Sorry, but we're going to have to go back to the courtroom, and we'll pick this up tomorrow. Okay.
Listening to a playlist I made called Playtime with
You're
My
welcome.
Family. Our home was such a special place to us, one that was tainted. Athens has never been the same, nor will it ever be. Shortly after Laken's death, I had to come back to UGA to finish my classes without Laken and without the safe space that we built together, and it was awful. Every time I wanted to go somewhere, I had to drive by the apartments that provided a roof over his head while he got to rip away ours. Life without Laken has been so dull, and having to learn how to navigate time without her through grief, anger, and fear has been beyond difficult. So many people are lost without her. Laken made her short time on Earth so significant that she managed to impact those who she never even met. Laken left a colossal legacy to everyone she touched, and I have zero doubt that she is still not finished building it. And that is something Jose Ibarra will never be able to take away. I hope to never say his name again, but to shout Laken's every chance I get. I kindly ask Your Honor that you help us all in our long healing journey by allotting the maximum sentence for Jose that unfortunately still won't make up for the beautiful life taken.
Sophia Magana.
Your Honor, my name is Sophia Magana. I'm Laken Riley's roommate of 3 years. I stand before you today with a heart full of grief, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of loss of my best friend. Laken wasn't just my best friend. She was my roommate, my sorority sister, and above all, she was my chosen family. The The joy and kindness Laken brought into my life every single day can never fully be put into words. We confided in each other, supported each other through life's challenges, and celebrated our joys together. The loss of my best friend has shattered my world in ways I never thought possible. I never imagined that I'd have to navigate life without her by my side. Every day, her friends, family, and loved ones carry the weight of her absence, a weight that is heavy and unrelenting. Laken was my fearless other half. As someone who's reserved and awkward, Laken was always there to nudge me to step out of my comfort zone. She would pull me onto the dance floor and encourage me to try new things and remind me to live life to the fullest. I trusted her completely, and I always knew she was there for me.
This is Sophia Magana, who is Laken Riley's former roommate here, live on the Crusade Radio Network. The sentencing of Jose Ibarra for the murder, kidnapping, rape, and 6 other charges against Laken Riley.
Embrace life with an open heart and how to dance in a crowded room without caring what anyone else thought. These lessons will stay with me forever. Laken was not just my best friend. She was a devoted daughter, a loving sister, and a cherished friend to so many. She was an exceptional student with a bright future ahead of her, destined to become a nurse who would touch countless lives with her compassion and care. I miss hearing her laugh, seeing her smile, and hearing her voice, all of which brought warmth and light to all those around her. Now we are forced to confront an unthinkable reality. We will never again hear the joy of her laughter, feel the warmth of her smile, or find peace in the sound of her voice. The loss of Laken has left a hole in our hearts that can never be filled. The monster who took Laken's life has clearly never known love, like the love Laken showed everyone in her life. Love that was boundless.
By the way, as a side note, for those of you listening on Crusade Radio Network, you can't see this. The judge has ordered an interpreter to interpret everything that these impact statement family members are saying to Jose Ibarra in his native language, so he completely understands exactly what he did and what these people are saying about him and about the woman whose life he took.
Laken taught me to embrace is now a world I feel unsafe in. Every day I put on a brave face as I step into my classroom, ready to teach and support my students. I mask my emotions and fears to shield them from the harsh realities of the world, preserving their sense of security and innocence in the world. Yet inside, I'm struggling, holding back tears until I can slip away to the bathroom or wait for the school day to end so I can finally let my true emotions surface beyond those 4 walls. February 22nd, 2024 is a day I will never forget. It is a day Jose Ibarra chose to commit an unthinkable act of murder Laken. He took from this world somebody who embodied love and light. Jose took my light, my sense of joy, my best friend, and my other half. Losing Laken has left an enormous hole in my life. The world feels quieter, emptier, and far less joyful without her in it. Her absence is felt in every corner of my day-to-day life, and I don't know how to fill the space that she once occupied. But what I do know is this. Laken's legacy of love, kindness, and friendship will live in all of us who knew her. The love she gave so freely will continue to guide me as I navigate this life without her. Jose Antonio Ibarra took Laken's life, and I hope that your verdict ensures that Jose experiences lifelong pain that is only a small glimpse of the pain we will live with daily since the loss of Laken. No punishment will ever truly account for what Jose has done, but it is my hope that justice will honor Laken's memory and the profound impact she had on all of our lives. Thank you.
Abby, have This is Abby Haviland.
And again, these are family and friend impact statements appealing to the judge, who is a male, by the way. It's not a female judge, it's a male judge. Everything is being translated for Jose Ibarra so that he knows full well exactly what these people are saying about Laken and about him, live here on the Crusade Radio Network. We will rejoin our regularly scheduled programming as soon as the sentencing hearing has concluded.
Sure. You want to read it? Can you read it?
I can.
Okay. So, Your Honor, Ms. Carrie Howell will be reading the statement for Abby. And this is Abby's statement that she prepared, but will be read right here.
It was 1:49 p.m. on February 22nd of 2024 that I learned Laken was missing. I immediately text her, "Laken, where are you? Why are people saying you're missing?" Just minutes after 2:17 p.m., a campus email came out confirming my worst nightmare. Laken had been found unconscious and not breathing. Laken, the girl I met in middle school and became best friends with our freshman year of high school. The girl I couldn't imagine being far away from when it came time for college, so we both decided to attend the University of Georgia together. The girl who stuck by me and got me through some of my toughest times in life, as well as accompanied me during some of my best. The loss of her is something I will never be able to come to terms with. I will never be able to come to terms with the fact that I was sitting in class just down the road, going about my day, the morning this horrific event was taking place. I will never not think about the last time I saw her, the pink sweatshirt she was wearing, and the last words she ever said to me. I will never not think about all the things I would have said had I known it would be my last time seeing her and talking to her. Myself, everyone up here, and the world has lost such a special person. Laken was intelligent, patient, loyal, driven, and kind. Her pureness and love for the Lord were evident and shined through her in a way unlike anyone I have ever met before. She is in a better place, but it is not fair that the rest of us still here on earth have to suffer because of this individual's actions. Because of this individual, some of my happiest days, such as the day I get married and have kids, will be forever accompanied by a feeling of grief, a sadness that Laken will not be there with me to experience them. Because of this individual, I have so many fun memories, but no one here to share them with. Because of this individual, I will be searching for the rest of my life for a friendship like the one I shared with Laken, but I know I will never find one because ours was simply unreplicable. I am here today to support Laken. I hope to provide only a fraction of the support she continuously gave me during her time here on earth. I miss her desperately and long for the day I get to see her again. Since February 22nd of 2024, I will forever be changed.
Sophia Plum. Palomino. Palomino.
Good afternoon. February 22nd, 2022 changed my life forever. Not being in Athens that day will forever haunt me. Finding out through an email will forever haunt me. And seeing this posted all over social media will forever haunt me. Laken Riley was my best friend, the person I told everything to, and the person I trusted with anything. The pain of the last 9 months has been indescribable. If you would have asked me a year ago where I thought I'd be and what I would do in 2024, I'd tell you I'd be finishing up my second to last semester of college with Laken as my roommate as she finishes nursing school. I'd tell you we spent St. Patrick's Day together in Savannah, and I'd tell you we went on that trip we planned to New York. I'd tell you she finally got me into running, and she would train me for the Av half this year. I'd tell you many things and many of our plans, but instead I get to tell you how different my year was. I get to tell you that I can't do anything by myself anymore, even in broad daylight. I get to tell you that a town I used to love being in just fills me with dread. That everywhere I go just reminds me of places we used to hang out and go on walks to. I tell you that I can't go past her old house and haven't been able to return to the IM field since. I tell you the weight of emptiness I feel when I still go to text her sometimes. This is now something I have to live with for the rest of my life, knowing her life was taken too soon and things I was looking forward to will never happen. being at each other's weddings, graduating together, and seeing each other's start our careers. This wasn't just a life that was taken, it was a future stolen. It's difficult living with knowing that nothing and nobody will ever fill the hole that's been left in our absence. I will never get to experience her famous belly laugh again, her comforting presence, or her cheering me on as we go through life. So many what-ifs play in my head over and over. If just one more thing maybe would have changed her path that day. But instead, my reality is that she is not here. And that because of what this animal did, we have sat here all week hearing every fraction of evidence and reliving the worst days of our life on repeat. I know nothing will bring her back, even though I so badly wish it would. But justice would bring comfort to us all. No one who can take away such a light and sweet soul deserves to walk free ever again. The death of my best friend has changed my life forever.
Carrie Howell.
Hi, Your Honor. I've started this over and over and over. Feeling paralyzed in my thoughts. With the overwhelming emotions, not knowing which direction to go, because there's so much that can be said today. Everyone has spoken so beautifully over her, and I had the privilege of getting to speak about her at her celebration of life and getting to talk about all of the beautiful and wonderful things about her. My name is Carrie Howell, and my husband Matt and I have had the blessing of calling Laken and Lauren's parents, John and Allison Phillips, our best friends. John and Matt met in college, where they were roommates and fraternity brothers, and they formed a bond as friends that grew into a true brotherhood. This brotherhood between them extended to connect our families together in the same exact way. It is a friendship that runs deep and loves big. Our families and children have grown up together and had many adventures and vacations together over the last 20 plus years. We have had the privilege and joy of watching Laken and Lauren grow up. 272 days ago, on the morning of February 22nd, 2024, our lives were forever changed in a way none of us could have ever imagined. The moment I got the call from my husband that Laken had not returned home from her morning run, that no one could get her on the phone, and she was missing, I knew in my heart something horrific had happened to her. I had the worst feeling that she was no longer with us, but I prayed and prayed and prayed as I frantically got ready to make the drive to Athens to be with my friends. I was begging the Lord for her to still be alive, and as terrible as this would be, that she had just been kidnapped and would be found physically unharmed and alive, or that she would be able to escape to safety, and praying she wasn't being trafficked. I was literally praying for her to not be kidnapped. Like, that sounds so crazy. But that just at the time seemed better than the alternative. I've never prayed for anyone to be kidnapped. I get the calls on my phone, and in fact, I pray for those people to be found and unharmed. Can you imagine your pleading prayers with the Lord being for someone you adore and love to just be kidnapped? That option gave me hope in that moment that she would be brought back to her family alive. I was desperate for my friends. This nightmare spiraled out of control when I received another call from my husband while he was on the road, or while I was on the road to Athens. John had called my husband, and he said to my husband, "She's with Jesus, brother." That will never leave my memory. As my oldest daughter and I sat in traffic on our way to Athens, time seemed to have stopped in that moment.
Yet, as we are here 272 days later, time has continued. It has continued in ebbs and flows of every emotion you can experience. Time has stood still in utter disbelief that this precious human is gone, while day-to-day life continues on. This was an act of pure evil at the hands of Jose Antonio Ibarra. He willfully chose to prey on innocent young women on the morning of February 22nd, with Laken Hope Riley being the young woman he would succeed in torturing in the most excruciating and brutal way, while she fought not only for her life, but for her dignity. He must have believed that she was there for his taking, that he was entitled to whatever sick, perverted urges and desires he had that morning. Not one person on this planet has even one right to take what they want from a person simply because they want it. Yet Jose did that. Because of his evil actions, we are all being forced to learn how to navigate life with the stark, harsh reality of Laken no longer being here. Her amazing friends have been robbed of the beautiful gift of lifelong friendships and doing life together with their future husbands and children, the way my family and the Phillips family have been blessed to do all of these years. Her grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins feel the absence of her presence constantly and have been robbed of the continued blessing of her being a bright light in their family. My family and I have journeyed alongside our dear friends as they attempt to navigate and learn how to live a new normal without their oldest daughter. I've gotten to know my best friend's face in a new way, a way I would give back if I could make returns on the most devastating circumstances life can hold. I look at her and I know when a situation is too much. I know when a comment is too much. I know when to be silent and when she needs encouragement. This year is showing on all of our faces, like the harshness of cold winter days, that there seems to be no end in sight. But we will keep fighting because we refuse to allow Jose Antonio Ibarra to take anything else from us, and we serve a good and mighty God. We've already been forced to journey through our annual family vacation without her.
Antonio Ibarra is Jose Ibarra's brother. They left New York together on that flight, and they were busted for shoplifting earlier in the year, that was 2023, arrested by Athens police, and then refused. They refused to turn them over to ICE for deportation and released back out. I was obviously into the population in Athens, Georgia. The city of Athens has fired that mayor that was responsible for her claiming it was a sanctuary city. Just dropping that info in here for you watching and listening on the Crusade Radio Network. Magdalene Rose, Mike Church here with live coverage. Back to the impact statements in the courtroom in the trial of Laken Riley and the now convicted killer, Jose Ibarra.
Like this, where evil intentionally goes out to harm somebody, there's no words for it. And so today I stand before you with her friends and family, and we ask you, Your Honor, to bring earthly justice for our precious Laken and for all of us who love her so very much. She was truly one of the most precious people that I've ever had the honor of knowing. She exhibited the fruit of the Spirit in the Bible because she truly lived her life for Jesus, as you got to hear John read in her journal entry. That was her. That was a private entry, not for anyone else. And you got to see the type of person that she truly is in her heart. Pure and lovely, and her laugh that everyone has talked about, literally one of all of our favorite things about her. And we never get to hear it again because of him. So we ask, Your Honor, for you to consider in your sentencing
for him to not be able to ever be out of prison and for him to spend all of his days there without any possibility of getting out. Thank you.
Tell me your name.
It is Carrie Howell.
Carrie?
Yes, sir.
That's the voice
Your Honor,
of the
that
judge.
at this time completes the statements for victim impact evidence from Laken's family and friends. The state would also have a few more items to present for victim impact, and then I'll address the indictment with the court. And one of the things I wanted to share with the court is that a lot of times when we hear victim impact evidence, it is very much so the way that we hear it here in court. Hold on, I'm going to pause this for. But what we have in this case is something that I ran across in my review of the evidence in this case, which is really 1 minute of when or where this court will be able to get the true impact of what the murder of Laken Riley did to her family and the impact of his actions on her family. Because what the investigators did in this case is, as you know, they were all wearing body cam videos, and there's hundreds of hours of it in here. And there is one moment where, and I'm just going to play 1 minute of it, just 1 minute of the horror that this family has gone through in the last 9 months and what they're going to continue to go through for the rest of their lives. And it is the moment that they learned that their daughter was dead. And in this video clip that I'm showing, which I've marked as states 333, at the top right corner, it's at 1950, you'll see a black truck.
Okay, let's step up here. Come on, let's go. Come over here, all right? It's not good. I don't want to tell you yes or no because I don't have names. I don't know who anybody is. I do know that this is a pretty serious sensitive.
That's what they endured. And that's how it was on that day when they came here to look for their daughter. And what it took away, you heard from her friends and family, and some of the things that you even heard in the trial. You got a little peek, just a little peek, about the personality of Laken Riley. For example, in Lily's 911 call, one of the things she says is, Laken never misses class. Never misses class. That's the kind of person she was. And in our review of all the evidence in this case, some of the things we had to look at were the social media presence of everyone, and there was a lot of digital evidence in this case. And the review of the digital evidence, I want to share with you just some of it, which has been marked State's Exhibit 336, is that Laken was a very joyful and quite silly, playful person. And a lot of that is viewed in her social media. And the Ring doorbell. Running. Same race. And these are just little snippets that we saw in the investigation that we thought would be important to share with the court, that shows not only the type of person that she was, that you just heard from her friends and family, but the true impact that her murder had on her parents. But more than that, one of the things that the court is permitted to consider in victim impact testimony is the impact that her death has on this community. And in that regard, the investigative team has spent a great deal of time out there at the crime scene, Lake Herrick, all of those trails, and looking for things, measuring things, just going about the daily jobs of homicide investigators and homicide prosecutors. And one thing that we noticed that's still there is States 335. It's a mural, a memorial to Laken Riley that is still up there to this day, that shows the impact of her death on this community. And that is something that Your Honor is permitted to consider in deciding what would be an appropriate sentence in this case. And everyone is correct, and I'm sure we'll hear it. You know, whatever you do, Judge, you can't bring her back, and it's horrible. But what you can
This is the voice of Sheila Ross, the state attorney who prosecuted the case, not the Athens, whatever county that, I forget the name of the county, not the county DA.
What I urge this court to do, and what the law permits this court to do, is to exercise your discretion and your judgment in a way that brings comfort to this community, and in a way that a sentence which appropriately reflects the harm that was done in this case. And a sentence of life without the possibility of parole would bring comfort to this community. And no matter what your sentence is today, and it will be litigated from here to 40 years from now, there is at least one person in this courtroom who will inherit it, and that is Lauren Phillips. That is Laken's younger sister. And she should never, first of all, she's growing up without her sister. She's going to have to deal with elderly parents alone. Her children won't have an aunt. She is an only child. And she should not have to worry 30 years from now, 40 years from now, if he comes up for parole, should he might get out. She should never have to worry about that. And your sentence can ensure that she will not have to worry about that. And so in looking at the indictment in this case, count one, the offense of malice murder, which this defendant has been found guilty of, in this particular case carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. It carries a minimum sentence of life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. The state is requesting that you sentence this defendant to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, not only due to the victim impact testimony, but also because if you read the indictment, which you have obviously, and you're familiar with the facts of the case because you've heard the case, there are several statutory aggravators in this case that separates this case from a regular murder case. And yes, there is malice murder, and all malice murder is bad. I'm not saying there's a malice murder that isn't bad, but there are some malice murders which are more aggravated than others, and this is one of them. Kidnapping with bodily injury, which is the felony murder in count 2, which by the way would be vacated as a matter of law, but not the kidnapping itself, which is count 5. But kidnapping with bodily injury is an aggravating statutory factor under our sentencing scheme in the state of Georgia. It makes malice murder worse than regular murder. And for that reason alone, you should sentence this defendant to life without the possibility of parole. Aggravated battery, which is also in this indictment and which is also the facts and it's also something he's been convicted of, is also a statutory aggravator under our statutory scheme, which makes this murder different and worse than a regular malice murder. So there are aggravating circumstances, which you have already heard, which I will not repeat to you, but that are not only recognized by the facts, but are recognized by our statutory sentencing scheme. So going down the rest of the indictment, felony murder count 2 is vacated as a matter of law. Felony murder count 3 would be vacated as a matter of law. Felony murder count 4 would be vacated as a matter of law. On count 5, kidnapping with bodily injury, the state is asking you to sentence this defendant to a sentence of life imprisonment with the possibility of parole, which is the maximum for that count. And we are going to ask that you run that consecutive to count 1, a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for the malice murder. Count 6 is aggravated assault with intent to rape. It does not merge. In fact, it is a separate crime under these circumstances. The penalty for that is 1 to 20 years in prison. The state would be asking you to sentence this defendant to 20 years to serve in prison. Count 7 of the indictment, the aggravated battery, would merge as a matter of law into count 1, so we would not request a sentence on that count. Count 8, obstruction or hindering a person making an emergency telephone call, is a misdemeanor. The maximum penalty for that is 12 months to serve in a county jail. We ask that you sentence him to that and run it consecutive to any other sentence that you impose in this case. Count 9, tampering with evidence, the way that it is actually alleged in the indictment and factually it is a misdemeanor. So the maximum for that is 12 months to serve in a county jail. We ask that you sentence him to that and run it consecutive to any other sentence that you impose in this case. And finally, count 10 of the indictment, peeping Tom, is a felony which carries a penalty between 1 to 5 years in prison. We ask that you sentence him to 5 years to serve in prison to run consecutive to count 1. So to sum it up, on the sentence would be on count 1, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Count 5, life imprisonment with the possibility of parole to run consecutive to count 1. Count 6, 20 years to serve to run consecutive. Count 7 will merge. Count 8, 12 months to serve to run consecutive. Count 9, 12 months to serve to run consecutive. And count 10, 5 years to serve to run consecutive. And that is the sentence that the state is requesting.
Mr. Donnelly.
And now the attorney for Jose Ibarra is about to speak.
Yes, sir.
Can't wait to hear this.
So obviously the court is aware that on count 1, there's really only 2 options before the court. It's an automatic life sentence. The only option is whether the court can indicate that it should be without the possibility of future parole. We're asking the court to not impose that. The life without parole. Because getting a life sentence is automatic. There's certainly no guarantee of parole, and would be uncertain, and it would be many decades in the future. And we do not oppose the state's recommendation that the life sentence, which is also mandatory on count 5, be made consecutive. We certainly, just to state the obvious, trust that the court will not consider for sentencing purposes the fact that Mr. Ibarra had a trial. The defense has made every attempt, made every effort to do its job and to pursue this process in a way to respect both the process itself and also to not cause any disrespect toward the feelings of Ms. Riley's loved ones. And if anything like that has happened, it certainly was not intended. And the defense is not immune to the sensitivity of this case. Again, to not only her loved ones, but to the greater community. The state's request is not unexpected to us. We anticipated that, and it's certainly understandable. And there is, though, a divide there. The state, while it is understandable the request that they make, the court, there's some separation given here in this process, and the court will be the one to impose it. So our request that you give consecutive life sentences on counts 1 and count 5. We have no position on the remaining counts. We'll send a message that to whatever future custodian of Mr. Ibarra as to the gravity of this crime and the gravity of this situation. That the court has expressed an intention for, it's obviously a legal fiction that he would serve 2 life sentences behind bars, but the law allows that, and it does, it sends that message to the future custodians as to the gravity. But the withholding of the life without parole aspect of count 1 would at least give Mr. Ibarra the sliver of incentive to reflect and conduct himself with some recognition of that reflection. The state agency and the staff of that agency, who will be tasked with supervising his custody, will have the opportunity to monitor him closely for, again, many years, many decades into the future. And it's impossible to know the future, obviously. But by imposing life sentences without removing the future custodians to the ability to do their job is our request at this time. And we also would point out that given his status with there is an immigration hold, that were he ever in the future to be released, it would only to be deported.
It's Mike Church here, host of the Mike Church on the Crusade Radio Network. I'm just going to drop in real quick. This sounds to me like the defense attorney is saying certain things because he wants to avoid the possibility of a mistrial being said because he didn't appeal for the lesser of the sentencing. That'd be my guess on this. Looks like they cut the feed. So waiting then.
Okay. So we just got a procedural little motion going on here as the judge is talking to the clerk of the court after the victim impact statements and the prosecutor.
Okay, so what's happening, Mahgdalen, is the judge is giving or getting some kind of instructions here, so they killed the feed. Again, the Democratic Party cannot be allowed to just walk away from this as if nothing ever happened and they had no role in this. They were completely and totally complicit in this. This man was basically recruited from Venezuela, went to New York City, ran afoul of the law, broke the law, was being pursued by the police in New York. The Biden regime, under their treasonaire program, flew him from...
I've heard it explained that...
Okay, they're back. Flew him from New York to Georgia on your dime, taxpayers.
That impacts one or many.
This is the judge speaking now. Honorable Patrick Haggard.
You have to make a conscious effort to breathe at sometimes, and that just comes on you at any particular. You just don't know what's going to bring it on you, and you realize that you do make it through the day, but you don't know how you did it. But I also, and this goes back to what Kerry Howell was saying, that, as many times as you reflect on the loss, at some point you start smiling about the memories. And I'm hopeful that at some point that takes over to a certain extent. But there's very little, including the sentence of Mr. Ibarra, that's going to help much, and I acknowledge that. With that, Mr. Ibarra, if you will please stand.
Here we go.
Count 1, malice murder. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count 2 will be vacated as a matter of operation of law. Count 3, vacated by operation of law. Count 4, vacated by operation of law. Count 5, life in prison consecutive to count 1. Count 6, 20 years to serve consecutive to count 5. Count 7 will merge with count 1. Count 8, 12 months consecutive to count 6. Strike that. 12 months, but I don't want it to 6. It's just going to be consecutive. Count 9, 12 months consecutive. Count 10, 5 years consecutive to count 6. So that would mean the misdemeanors would come after the felonies. That will be the sentence. Mr. Ibarra, I will advise you that you have 30 days from today to seek any post-judgment relief in the form of a motion for a new trial or appealing this case directly. If you make a motion for a new trial and that is denied, you have 30 days from that date to file your first appeal, first level of appeal. Court will appoint a lawyer to represent you if you cannot afford one. I'll also advise you that you have 4 years from the date that your conviction becomes final in order to file a habeas corpus petition. Mr. Donnelly, can you tell me, are you all going to be involved in the next stage?
That remains to be seen, but my understanding is that we will remain on at the court's appointment until, unless relieved by conflict counsel.
All right. And you'll make those arrangements?
We will communicate that with Mr. Ibarra and with the court.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Ms. Ross?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. It's going to take a little. Yeah, can we take the?
All right, so Jose Ibarra found guilty of the murder of Laken.
And you heard it here live on the Crusade Radio Network. A monumental day here, and an absolutely horrid day for the family, I'm sure, of Laken Riley, as they had to sit there and watch this whole proceeding play out in front of them, all the while having to stare at Jose Ibarra, who basically was emotionless. and just kind of stared blankly as the translator was reading or was translating everything that was being said about him to him, I guess in his native language of Spanish or whatever form of Spanish they speak in Venezuela. As I was saying, Mahgdalen, the Democrat Party cannot be allowed to just walk away from this as if it was just a policy dispute and they had nothing to do with this. There was an intention to bring young, lawless, violent offender men, just like Jose Ibarra and his brother, into the United States. They succeeded in doing so. I just don't know how much more that President-elect Trump can do about this, or anyone can do about it, other than that this should be the catalyst now to round up every single one of these SOBs and send them back from where they came.
And I think one of the people who will have a major role in that is the possible and I think likely Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in that Venezuela knows exactly what it's been doing in terms of emptying its asylums and its prisons and dumping the people of their country on our border, knowing they would go in. The same thing has happened in El Salvador. And I know many conservatives like the El Salvador president, but Trump has been very, very clear in the fact that he doesn't like what he's doing in terms of giving us his worst people. So I think the Secretary of State is going to need to coordinate to put pressure on Latin American countries to stop using the United States as a dumping ground, and having Marco Rubio, and that he speaks Spanish, he's very up to date on these issues, it will be invaluable because we can get them out of the country here, but we have to stop the flow as well.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. One of the things most Americans won't know about President Bukele is that President Bukele is Muslim. His brother the family is a Muslim family. Now, it appears that he is a Catholic because people see him coming out of Mass. That's Tequila that he's practicing there. I know the Mira family that is from El Salvador. They know Bukele, know President Bukele. And it's not to say that they don't like him, but he is most certainly a Muslim, which kind of puts a different perspective on why he was one of those that was emptying some of their prisons there. And as you said, dumping their prisoners here in the United States. President Trump has said it many times on the campaign trail. This proves, Mahgdalen, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that was correct. Ibarra was a known violent recidivist to Venezuela. He's one of those that they went, hell yeah, you're going to take him off our hands? Yeah, get rid of him, put him on treason air. So the idea that there's no culpability here and this was, again, a simple policy dispute, to me is just ridiculous. I look forward to seeing what Trump actually has to say about it. I'd be surprised and shocked if we didn't get a statement from Donald Trump today, President-elect.
I agree, and I think that he's going to use the fact that these horrible crimes have happened, not just to Laken Riley, but other young women, especially a 12-year-old in this country. And he's going to say to senators, look, do you want to sort of hold back on confirming my people? Do you want me to have to go back and forth? Or do you want to stop the flowing of illegal immigrants into this country? And I would like to see Venezuela held accountable. You know, Maduro and the entire institution of crime within Venezuela has been allowed to do whatever they want under Biden. So having Marco Rubio in to stop that will be invaluable. Yeah, and the fact that you're right, that Rubio speaks Spanish, that Rubio would just go right down, no, don't try to play that translator crap on me. I don't need to. and look, I'm not a Rubio fan, but in this instance, yeah, he is absolutely the guy, or could be the guy. Let me say he could be the guy for this job. I think another one of the considerations here is there are other people that have been killed. What about the killer of Rachel Morin? What about the two monsters that killed and raped Jocelyn Nongare? I mean, every time I hear that story, I weep. That poor child, 12 years old, was killed, raped and killed by those two who should not have been in the U.S. Unfortunately, this is not the last trial that we'll watch. This is not the last impact statements that we'll see for the result of this policy here. You know, the American people made a statement with the election. I don't think we should be done making statements about this. No, I don't think we should either. And I think one of the things that Trump's going to do is he's going to keep this in the news. And Tom Homan, as borders are, I mean, if you can't, there's not a bigger difference in the two borders are with Kamala Harris and Tom Homan. He is not naive. I think a lot of Democrats, the ones who aren't just happy about the illegal flow, they are naive. They truly buy into their own nonsense that these people are just victims and want a better life. Tom Homan isn't naive. And I think that that lack of naiveness will help the United States because he's going to educate people, which he did during these last 4 years. He was very helpful to Trump in keeping this issue alive. He will educate the American people on what's really happening across this country.
And let me just recap the news. If you're just joining us on YouTube or X or on the Crusade Radio Network, wherever you may be listening or watching us, the killer of Laken Riley, Jose Ibarra, found guilty on all 10 counts. He requested a judge trial, and we now know the reason why, because Georgia law says the only way you can get sentenced to die is if you're convicted of the capital crime of homicide 1, and then it has to be done by a jury. The conviction has to be by a jury, and then the sentence of death has to be recommended by the jury, which the judge still could overrule, technically. No? Okay, so once the jury speaks, in some states, the judge can go, the jury has spoken, but I'm going to. So that's the only way you'd have gotten the death penalty out of this. Jose Ibarra will go to a state prison in the state of Georgia, and I don't know if they're going to put him in solitary or if they're going to Dahmer him. If you don't know what Dahmering is, that means they just basically let him walk about in the general population and let justice happen as it will. Quite frankly, I prefer that he have to live with what he did for the rest of his life. Who knows? Maybe he goes David Berkowitz and claims that he finds Christ. I mean, you can hope that he will. I think the killer of St. Maria Goretti, Alessandro, I forget Alessandro's last name, but pretty much similar situation. He stalked that little girl. She refused his advance, and even to the day that she died, she refused his advance, and he tried to force himself upon her. And by God's grace, she died a virgin, and she would not let him. And so, out of rage, he stabbed her like 44 times and killed her. And of course, she's St. Maria Goretti today, but most people don't know. Alessandro has spent the last years of his life after he got out of prison as a Dominican, I believe it was a Dominican, as a religious, and her mother went to go visit him many times. He was actually at her canonization. Assunta is her name. Assunta was St. Maria Goretti's name. So justice the sentence has been meted out. You pray for Jose Ibarra that we don't want anyone to go to hell. But justice has to be served. Magdalene, I think this also is one of these things. This should temper any of this remaining nonsense that young women should be voting simply based on whether or not they can kill their soon-to-be-born babies or prevent them from ever being conceived or not. Because this was a young woman, and you heard all of those young ladies, there were 8 of them, that gave impact statements about how this completely and totally threw their lives upside down and destroyed them. I think this gives America's young ladies something a little bit more to think politically about, if you will.
I think that's true, and I think that's why abortion didn't work this time. Back in 2022, it was new Roe v. Wade being overturned, and Democrats kind of had the edge. We didn't see it on the Republican side, the impact of abortion. This is not that time anymore, and I think that's why Kamala Harris's campaign felt so out of date, is that she was running in 2022. I'm actually going to jump off now, but I'll continue the digital work on our Twitter page.
Thank you very much for joining me. It's Magdalene Rose, everybody. Follow her on Twitter, @Magdalene Rose. And, of course, she's with us every day and now part of the Mike Church Show. All right, Magdalene, thank you very much. Folks, we're going to send it back to the studio here. It's been an emotional afternoon watching all this, and I'm sure it has been for y'all as well. And, again, we could just all say prayers for all of those people that, including Laken's mother. I don't think I'll ever be the same having seen the video of the police officer informing Miss Phillips that her daughter was murdered. If you watched it on TV, then maybe you think the same. And then of the sister being informed that her sister was murdered. just torrid. I'm glad we were able to bring it to you live here on the Crusade Radio Network. As we say, when news breaks out, we break in. Brother Andre Marie, you will hear the entirety of this episode of Reconquest. And if any other news breaks out the rest of the day, go to x.com, follow me at The King Dude, follow us and subscribe to our channel for those of you that watch this on YouTube. Make sure you're notified. We go live all the time with news, a Crusader News Alert. And you just heard one, as a matter of fact.
Of his new administration. Retired ICE agent.
Okay, I thought the President Trump had released a statement. I haven't seen it if he did. Going to send you to Crusade Central here and to this regularly scheduled broadcast of Reconquest, which will broadcast in its entirety. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon here. Subscribe to our channel on the YouTube, and you can make a donation in any amount for our efforts to keep us live and on air. CrusadeChannel.com/donate. Of course, you can also join us and become a Founders Pass member, and you'll be notified of all these events. CrusadeChannel.com/offer. And now Reconquest here on the Crusade Radio Network.